What's up, everyone? Welcome. My name is Wes. This is Interactive English, which, of course, is the place that you want to be to practice and improve your English skills. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this special Q&A. So, I am going to be taking some of your questions, but we will do that just a little later on because we are going to do a live English Q&A with yours truly. All right. So if you guys have some questions, I will take those, but in just a little bit. I have a few other things that I'd like to go over with you, but I just want to give a quick shout out and acknowledge some of you are here. So thank you. Lali, Manipur, Little Pivion, Andre, Bataina, Abro, Anna, hello, Nazim, Olivia, Vathi, Ludovica, Ishana, Kashana, sorry if I mispronounce names, but thank you guys so much for joining me. Rosalinda, hello. If you're joining, just say what's up in the chat because I just love hearing from you guys. Even if you're watching this Q&A later on, write your name in the comments. Say hello, say what's up. We love meeting new people from all over the world, and it's just been such a great community. So, thank you guys so much for joining us, and I do have some questions for you guys too, because I do want to practice. So save your questions for right now. I will get to those. But first, I have some questions from some patrons that I want to answer because I asked them, I said, what questions do you guys have? And I will make some slides and answer those. So the first question that I want to talk about is from Catherine. She said, I would like to understand better the uses of as and because to give reasons. She felt like maybe she was overusing as. So I want to discuss this, all right? Because as, because, and since, all three of those are conjunctions that we can use to connect a result and a reason. So they're used to introduce a subordinate clause. And they, like I said, they help connect results and a reason. And I tried to color code these for you. So that result is that pinkish color. And then we have our conjunction and reason. That is purple. That is our subordinate clause. So the result is an independent clause. I watch Interactive English. That is a complete thought. And then the subordinate clause, it's giving us the reason because I want to achieve English fluency. We can combine those into one sentence. I watch Interactive English because I want to achieve English fluency, okay? So these are different conjunctions you can use, and I want to talk about each one and why they use them. So I'm also going to give you an informal explanation as to why. So the most common one, by far, the most common one is because. And think of it this way, because it's the cool conjunction. Everybody loves because it puts the focus on the reason, all right? We are emphasizing and focusing that reason, and that's why we use because. Because that's its only function too, all right? One reason why it's so much more popular is because as and since, they have other functions besides being conjunctions. They can be adverbs, they can be prepositions, but we know because, all right? Because is our friend because it's just a conjunction. Right now, give me some example sentences. If you guys are in the chat, write some sentences using because. Talk about a result and connect it to a reason. I gave you that first example. Here are some other examples. You could say, a question. Are you upset because I'm late? Remember, because I'm late, that is the focus. That's our subordinating conjunction. That's our subordinating clause. Are you upset because I'm late? And then someone say, well, I'm late because I forgot to set the alarm. Because I forgot to set the alarm, again, that is our reason. And then you could say, because you're late, we can start the sentence with it. Because you're late, I'm giving you an extra assignment. Because you're late, I'm giving you an extra assignment. So we often, overwhelmingly, use because to connect a result and a reason. All right. All right, thank you so much, Lolly. That's such a great compliment. You love my lessons because they're always interesting. I try to make them interesting. The other thing I want to tell you about because, very cool, pronunciation tip, all right? Oftentimes, many native speakers will just pronounce it as cuz. It just gets reduced in order to speak quicker and more efficiently, and they just say "cuz." So I'll say those sentences again and just shorten it. So I'd say, are you upset because I'm late? That would be a way that many people would pronounce it. Are you upset because I'm late? No, I'm late because I forgot to set my alarm. Or you can say, because you're late, I'm giving you an extra assignment. So again, instead of because, many people might just say cuz, all right? Cuz. All right, Aliza, I was waiting for you because I wanted to learn. Perfect, all right? Nazim, I want to improve my English because it's so important. Exactly. Great reason. Yes. I lost the job vacancy because I could not speak English well. Yes, it's important. English really helps for your job opportunities. Great example. Perfect. I couldn't catch the train because I was late. Yes, that happens. That happens to the best of us. I can't go outside because I feel sick. Great one. Excellent. Thank you, Olivia. Perfect. I like playing soccer because it keeps me healthy. Yes, those are some great examples. And again, this is the one that you want to use. This is what I would recommend if you're ever trying to connect a result and a reason. Now, let's look at the other ones. Like I said, I'm going to give you an informal explanation about this. So since. Since is, it's not a very cool conjunction. It's a conjunction. It's trying to make a name for itself. Since really wants to be like because, but it's failing miserably, all right? Because I'd say, but since is not doing a good job because, all right, this is my reason, because the word because is an absolute rock star. Everybody loves the word because, and since, it's just an afterthought. At times we use it in just casual conversation. You might find it in conversation when people are speaking, but it's mostly an afterthought. This was a great question. I love this question from Catherine because, again, I'm now going to notice every time I say because I use since often. I think I use since, regularly, especially if I'm writing an email, and I would notice that I use it a lot, even though when I was researching this and looking this up and trying to figure, okay, how am I going to present it? I was surprised to find that, okay, they were like, yeah, since, not many people use it. It's an afterthought. Stick with because. So just personally, I use since, especially in conversation, but just so you know, it's not very common. So here's some examples. You could say, since you forgot my birthday, you have to sing me a song. Or, let's be nice to each other since we have to work together. You might say, let's be civil since we have to work together. You can take because and just plug it in there and it's fine, all right? And that's what most people would do. Most people would use because instead of those sentences. So now let's get to the last one. As, all right? So I'm sorry if you can't see it very well. I tried to color coordinate it with purple, but it's kind of light. So as is not very popular. In fact, it is not popular at all, all right? So if this is, to give you an example, this would be the conjunction that has to eat alone at lunch because, as does not have many friends. Because is the cool kid, all right? As just is a bit of a loner, all right? Sometimes as it's used in formal situations, in formal speech, but it is just not common in spoken English. Now, I can definitely say that about American English. I don't use as at all if I'm talking about, connecting a result and a reason. Now, here's some examples, just so you know. I didn't buy the painting as it was quite expensive, okay? Again, you're connecting that it's still a subordinating conjunction in this case, as it was quite expensive. Or you could say, as we all know each other, let's just start the meeting. We don't need to introduce one another. As we all know each other, let's just start the meeting. But again, I would avoid using as because it's just not very common, all right? Just stick with because. I don't know about British English. Maybe in some formal situations, perhaps in British English, it might be a little more common, but I definitely know in American English, we don't use as quite often. Actually, when I was looking this up, I saw some examples, And most of it was in literature from like books that were over 100 years old. So it's not common, especially in informal and casual English. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. So let's look at, so this was a review. Remember, because, or since, they're conjunctions, connecting result with reason. Use because. Stick with because. All right. So this is something that I would like to do and continue doing. Again, for patrons, I'm going to try and do it once a month. If you guys have a question, all right, I will make slides and answer those questions. And if you want to check us out on Patreon, I will leave a link in the description. It's another great way to connect with us, and we have some cool rewards, kind of like this one. I'll just make some slides and answer your questions. So the next question was from Danny. All right, Danny had a question. He was asking about giving a lesson talking about regarding, concerning, in terms of, and how to use these. And this can be very challenging, and this can be a bit tricky. So this is what I want to talk to you about next. Regarding, concerning, in terms of, with regard to. So all of these function as prepositions. And they're often used at the beginning of a sentence, and it's just used to indicate the subject that you're either speaking about or the subject that you're writing about. So let me give you some examples. I'm going to give you some examples, but I also want to show you a cool resource. And this is going to help you understand if you have any questions about how often are words used, or if there's a phrase and you want to use, okay, should I use this phrase or should I use this phrase? So the uses of words and phrases, you can check the Google Ngram Viewer, and I'm going to show you this in just a moment. So this is an online search engine that can chart word frequencies. It charts it from printed sources between 1500 and 2008. So if anything, it just gives you an idea as to what's more common than others, which phrase is more commonly used. So first, let's look at regarding and concerning. They're basically interchangeable. As I said, it's used to indicate the subject, like what you're going to talk about. So for example, I say, if I was somebody's boss, I say, regarding your raise, we first need to complete a review of your work performance. So regarding, we're talking about the raise. That is the subject. Regarding your raise, we first need to complete a review of your work performance. And then you could say, okay, use it. Concerning your work performance, we found a few red flags that prohibit you from receiving a raise. And if you don't know red flags, that's a great informal expression. It means basically warnings, all right? There are some problems. So concerning your work performance, we found a few problems that prohibit you from getting a raise. Regarding and concerning, they're very interchangeable. And let me show you just how interchangeable they are. So let's check out, let me see if this works. Let's look at the Ngram Viewer, all right? So hopefully you guys can see this and see what I'm looking at. So I just typed in these two phrases right here, concerning your question, all right? And then I put a comma in there, and then regarding your question. And I wanted to see which one is used more often. And you can see from this, they're very similar, all right? Concerning your question, regarding your question. The reason that I didn't just put in concerning and regarding is because concerning also has another meaning. It means that you're worrying about something. So I did not want to include that. I wanted to know, again, that specific meaning for this. You're talking about some subject. Concerning your question, regarding your question. So we can also put in something like this, all right? If somebody says, I have a question concerning, or I have a question regarding. Let's put that in there, all right? So let's change this. So I'm going to put a question concerning, all right, comma, a question regarding, because you can put that in like, I have a question concerning. Do you have a question concerning? Do you have a question regarding? Let's see how often these are used. Okay, again, as it shows, you can see it over the years, all right? People use a question concerning. I have a question concerning is a bit more common than a question regarding. But again, they're very, very similar. I was surprised because personally, I think I use regarding more often than concerning. But Either one, they're both fine. So this is, again, a great resource if you want to know how frequent different phrases are being used or different words. But again, it needs to be specific. So let's check out the next one. In terms of and with regard to. This is basically talking about something specific, but you're talking about it in relation to something else. So for example, check out these sentences. We give our customers the absolute best in terms of quality and cost. That's my specific, all right? We give them the absolute best in relation to this other thing, in relation to quality and cost, in terms of quality and cost. These are also interchangeable with regard to. We do our best with regard to customer service. We do our best with regard to customer service. So again, if we want to look and see, well, which is more common? What do people use? Let's go back to our Ngram viewer, and you can see I just put those in. In terms of is right here. All right, this is the big one. Boom! Many people use it. With regard to is not as common. So most people, if you're talking about which one to use, in terms of would be much more commonly used than with regard to. However, I think both of them are okay. People will understand you. It's not a problem if you want to use one over the other. It's not like using as as a conjunction, which you rarely ever find, and you may not find it. So again, either one of these would be okay. So I wanted to answer those questions from our patrons, and I want to do a Q&A every month. And now if you guys have questions, write those to me in the chat, and I will try to go through and answer some of them. The only thing I would ask you is try to make the questions very specific. If you have a specific, like, how do you pronounce this word? Or what does this mean? Or is this sentence correct? Something very specific so that I can do this and try to answer those questions now. If I can't, I'll try to find the information for you because, again, I do not know every single thing about the English language. It's always changing. It's always growing. And that's something I think is great about English. I am learning something new every day, and I hope you guys are learning something new as well, and then you can share that with each other. So, how do you pronounce the word? Sentence. So, sentence has 2 syllables, sentence. All right? I think that stress, sentence. The stress I think would be on the first syllable, sentence. All right? So, that's a perfect question. Some people would ask questions like, tell me all 12 verb tenses. And it's like, that's just too much. So if you guys have some questions right now, write those in the chat and I'll just run through and try to talk to you a little about it. But I'm so happy you guys are joining me. Again, like Sandeep, great. That's a very general question. Sandeep, please tell me how to speak English fluently. That is what so many of you want to learn. Again, I will give you my quick explanation. Try to get as much exposure to the language as you can. And what I mean exposure is it's like you're creating an English bubble so that you are surrounded by English. You are reading English. You are listening to English. You are speaking in English. And you have so much exposure, you start thinking in English. And if you are in another country where English is not the language that is being spoken, try to make an effort to surround yourself by English and do a little bit each day. Try to read a little each day. Try to listen to some music each day. Start watching a TV show in English. Try to make an exercise to where maybe you're cooking lunch or maybe you're making lunch or cooking dinner and say, okay, while I'm doing this, I am going to think in English and really start training those muscles, and that's going to help you achieve fluency. So, okay. Let's see. What's the difference between tall and long? So again, if you're talking about tall, you're talking about the height, all right? How high is something? That is a tall building. Long would be an adjective describing the length, all right? We traveled a long way. You traveled a far distance. All right, Jalissa, how do you say cooperative, all right? So again, cooperative, I would say some people, I'm trying to think of British English, cooperative. They might say that O sound more in that first syllable, cooperative, but I'd say cooperative. That stress is on that second syllable, cooperative, cooperative. And again, that you have like an unstressed syllable in there. It's kind of like saying Wednesday. You don't hear that NES, Wednesday, cooperative. I don't think, people aren't going to say cooperative, cooperative. So, good question. Greetings from Toronto. Yes, greetings, Amy. Hello. Exactly. I keep visit on time so I can speak well. Yes, exactly. Thank you for listening to our video. Again, if you guys are listening, that really, if you're listening a little bit, even you're listening to these lessons right now, that helps you, especially because so many people say, I can understand your speech. I've been teaching for about 15 years, and I think I just end up speaking slower. This is my natural speech. Sometimes people are like, why don't you speak faster? And it's like, well, this is the way I talk right now. And I think it works out. What's the difference between freedom and liberty? I think, again, I think in some cases, freedom and liberty, they can be interchangeable. I think freedom is more all-encompassing. It's definitely much more common, all right? I'm kind of curious now. So let's go back over to our, where is it? I'm going to go back over to our Ngram viewer. Freedom and liberty. Let's put those in. Let's see what it says. I imagine freedom is much more common noun than liberty. Freedom and liberty. Yes, actually, yeah, it's used much more often. When I think of freedom, you can be talking about, I think, a lot more things in general. Liberty, I think of something more related to your freedom in the country, political freedom, something with governance. You want to have liberty. So, boom, all right. Is there any difference between outskirts and suburbs? I would say yes and no, all right? The location is the same. If you're talking about the outskirts of the city, the suburbs of the city, suburbs is the outskirts, okay? The difference is when you say suburbs, I know what you're talking about. It's not the countryside. It's not the same as the countryside. I think of the suburb as a residential area where there are homes, maybe there's a shopping mall, but you're not going to have tall buildings that are downtown in a city. Now, if you say outskirts, then I know you're talking about outside the city, but I don't know exactly what the area is. Maybe it's the suburbs, maybe it's the countryside. I really don't know. You're talking about the outskirts. So keep that in mind. They're talking about the same location, but suburbs would be more specific because then I have an idea of the area that you're talking about. Let's see. How do you pronounce sheep and ship? All right. That's a good one. Sheep and ship. Those are two. You have that short I sound, ship, versus the long E sound, sheep. All right. Sheep and ship. And we did another pronunciation lesson where we talked about minimal pairs and trying to identify certain vowel sounds, certain consonant sounds and we did some activities. I don't know if you didn't see someone, I'm looking it up right now because I want to link that for you guys and I'll put that in the chat, but it takes some time to load, is it? So again, ship is that the the short I sound, ship. And sheep is the long E sound. So let me see, where is it? I'll pull that up. Pronunciation. Okay. And I will link that in the description in just a moment, okay? So you guys, I highly recommend, who asked that question? I highly recommend you check that out. It'll really help you, okay? Somebody said, how can I sound like an American? I think one of the great things, if you're trying to speak English with a certain accent, like an American accent or a British accent, I would try and say, imitate the accent that you wish to hear, or listen to the accent that you wish to hear. So the more you surround yourself with an American accent, then you're going to start picking up American pronunciation, the way that we pronounce certain words, tomato instead of tomato. So it's just these small things, but I'd say surround yourself by American English, and that is the best way to kind of start internalizing that accent. All right, how to pronounce antibiotics. All right, antibiotics. So Ibrahim, antibiotics. So that stresses on that bi, antibiotics. All right, antibiotics. I think maybe British English might be a little different pronunciation, but in American English, antibiotics. Let's look. So here is, let me give this for you guys. Here is the minimal pair for pronunciation. I do some activities in this lesson as well, which I think I thought it was really cool. I was very proud of myself for this lesson. So I'll link it right here. As soon as this loads, copy, and boom, it's going in the chat right now. You guys can check that out, that pronunciation lesson. Juan, hello, Wes, how are you? I am very good, Juan. Thank you so much for asking. So let's see, what other questions? I know I'm getting behind. Sorry if I'm skipping around. Want to talk to you. Yeah, Ira, linking words is very difficult. Yes, this is something that's very common, talking about linking words, connected speech. And I think in the future, we're trying to put together a lesson that talks all about that. Francisco says, yes, practice every day. Practice makes perfect. Again, you need to practice, practice, practice. And I think it's good to mix it up. Somebody else asked about how to become fluent in English. It's good to have passive learning and active learning. When it's active, what I mean by that is that you have to respond. Right now, I do lessons and I ask you guys to interact and write stuff in the chat. That would be an active exercise. You have to respond. Passive would be you're just doing this thing for entertainment, for your own leisure, and you don't have to do anything. So for example, listening to music would be just a passive exercise. You don't have to summarize it. You don't have to give another response. You're just listening to it for your enjoyment, watching TV, watching a movie. So I think it's good to mix it up between passive exercises and active exercises to continually practice. So actually, rather than might and may, that's another one I want to address in an actual lesson in the future. So I'm going to stick with that. But that is a good question. All right. But I think oftentimes, again, most native speakers, might and may, we use them interchangeably. And I don't think people are going to say too much about it if you're, switching them up. Like, I may go outside today. I might go outside today. I think is fine. Is it possible to speak like a native? Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, some people are gifted with languages and pronunciation. Others are not. I know that when I try to speak Spanish, I think I definitely have a thick accent. But again, the more you're exposed to the language, the more you are practicing and speaking the language and get comfortable with it, I think your accent will tend to diminish. It might not completely go away, and that is fine. That is perfectly okay, but it'll tend to diminish over time. Let's see. I heard another one. David says, here and here. Those are homonyms, all right? So for example, here, I'm talking about I am here right now, or here like you're listening to something. So again, homonyms are words that different meaning, same pronunciation. So again, they're great to learn so that you recognize them, but the best way to do it, you really have to put it into context. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay, how do you pronounce? It depends. So close, all right? If you're talking about close the door, C-O-L-O-S-E, close the door, all right? That also sounds like clothes, like what you're wearing. So that is the same pronunciation. Close the door, or I'm wearing clothes. If you're talking about proximity, somebody is close, then that would be a different pronunciation. Like, oh, you're standing very close. All right. So it's a difference between that close, all right, that final S sound, close, and close. All right. Close the door. I'm wearing clothes, and you're standing close. What else do we have? All right. Can you suggest a good book? All right. I say this to learners all the time. Read at your level. All right. Don't try to read something that's super difficult. If you can, just try to read just above your level so that you don't have to run to the dictionary. If you think that you are still at a beginner to intermediate level, read children's books. I think it's fine. You can get through that. You'll still learn new words, and you're not going to have to go to the dictionary every time. The other thing is read something that you're interested in. I could tell you to read about sports. Maybe you're not interested in that, so that's not going to help you. Find something that you are interested in, whether it's fashion, sports, food, and find reading about that, because that's going to keep you engaged in what you're reading. You're going to want to learn more information about that. I think it's great to always use English to learn something else. So if you're interested in food, watch a TV show about food. And that way you're learning something about food while you're learning English as well. Or when you're reading something about food, you're learning while you're learning English as well. So please make a video. Homonyms, yes. Maybe that could be a good live lesson in the future. What's your favorite song? It really switches. I don't know if I have a favorite song as I do like a genre. For example, I'll go through a period where I listen to like a lot of rock and roll, and I'll listen to more like rock, like Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones. And then depending on where maybe if I go on vacation to the beach, I'm listening to reggae, and then I'm listening to Bob Marley. So a lot of it depends on the location, where I'm at, and what I'm doing would be my musical preference. If I'm running, I like to listen to something like upbeat. I might listen to some pop to really get me going. Oh, that's a great reading source. Somebody just said Little Prince. Yes, that's another great story. Not at a very high level, but that's another one. That could be a good reading recommendation. Little Prince. How do you pronounce whole and whole? Again, homonyms, same pronunciation. Whole, W-H-O-L-E, and whole, H-O-L-E, whole. I ate the whole pie. All right, you ate all of it. Or I need to dig a hole. Pronunciation is the same. You guys are very welcome. I know some of you, thank you. Thank you guys for joining us. I love the community that we've been creating. I love, before these lessons start, I see all of you guys chatting, like where you're from, what are you doing, what's your name? And that's great, because this is what we want to do, and just build the community, and you guys interact with each other and can communicate and ask questions. And in the future, when we're going to start doing some online classes that is going to be a mix of videos and live lessons, and we really want to form a community when we do those classes. So, Olivia, have you ever been to Ukraine? No, unfortunately, I have not. And we're pretty close right now because we live in Budapest. It's on our list. It is on our list to visit, but right now, especially with the little one, little Amelia, we don't have as much time to travel, but in the future, we want to travel a lot more, especially with her, because I think travel is such a great way to get exposure and to learn about other languages, to learn other cultures, and it really broadens your view of the world. I think it's such a good thing, and I commend you guys that you guys are here, you're trying to learn English, and you're learning about culture, you're learning another language. It really changes, like, again, it's like creating a new personality. You're really changing yourself. So what else do we have? Again, somebody said, yes, there and there. Again, those are homonyms, T-H-E-R-E and T-H-E-I-R, the possessive. Hello, Ty, I'm from Indonesia. What's up? Thanks for checking out today's lesson. Saba asked, Miriam, how much time should I spend regularly to learn English? That's a good question. I think what I would say is try to learn a little each day. Some people, I've met students before, and they would come and ask me, they say, do you think I could learn English in 3 months? If I study for 10 hours a day, can I learn in 3 months? And studies have shown that if there gets to be a point where if you're studying so much a day, you're not able to absorb all the information. because language learning, I always say it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's a long-term activity. And I know everybody has a busy life. People are working, you're in school, you have other things going on in life. You can't take 4 hours, 5 hours to study English each day. So even if you could set aside 10 minutes each day to try and do something, I think it really helps. And then it goes back to, okay, how am I going to schedule those 10 minutes? Try to do something different. Spend 10 minutes one day reading. Spend 10 minutes another day watching videos online. Spend 10 minutes another day studying a grammar concept. And spend 10 minutes another day just trying to think in English. And you can do that from anywhere. If you're riding the bus, going somewhere and say, okay, I'm going to think. I used to do this all the time when after work, when I lived in California, I would walk home. Sometimes it would be, it was like a 40-minute walk. I just enjoyed walking. It kind of just calmed me down. It was a little like meditative, but while I was walking, I would try to tell myself, okay, I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes just thinking in Spanish. And everything that I was looking at, I was describing in Spanish. I was trying to think about my day. What do I need to do when I get home? And I was just trying to focus on thinking in Spanish. And I was making mistakes because I was talking to myself, but that was okay. I was still practicing. I was producing the language. So there's many great things that you guys can do and it doesn't take a long time too. So thank you guys. Did you visit India? No, again, it's on our list. Ioana's sister was just in India. She was telling us all about it, and we really want to go. Diamansen, the baby crying. Yes, I don't know if you guys could hear. Yes, she was crying just a second ago. But we will give her a kiss from all of you. Thank you. Majida says, how do you announce? Okay, those are good words. Some math words. I think you made a comment about this earlier, and I was going to make a note for it. So we have quadrilateral, all right, quadrilateral, and parallelogram. Quadrilateral and parallelogram. So parallel, then you have that schwa, parallelogram. Parallelogram, 5 syllables, parallelogram. And quadrilateral. There we go. Quadrilateral, 5 syllables again. Quadrilateral, parallelogram. So yes, and if you want to hear me say that again, you could watch the review later and just keep listening to it again, because again, that's the best way to do it. If you want to practice your pronunciation, do shadowing. Listen to somebody say it and then try to repeat it. And then try to say it at the exact same time. And just, again, mimic that voice. It's called the imitation technique, and you're basically mimicking what somebody else says. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me. This is something I hope to do every month and just answer your questions. And if you want to become a patron, and I'll make some slides for your questions and actually make it a part of the lesson, you can check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description. But thank you for joining me today. Please, if you enjoy this, like and share this lesson. Write us questions. We love hearing from you guys. And I just want to give a shout out to you guys that are here still. Vijay, Andre, Esther, thank you so much for joining us. Kamar, Rosalinda, Starry Night, Neolin, thank you guys for being here today. Lali, I really appreciate it. Little Pivion, thank you. Olivia, Ashes. Yeah, all right. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Ira, Giselle, Mohit, Aliza. The list just goes on and on. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. I will see you next time. So long.